We're rolling.
All right, Patricia, start us off there with a little crack of the can.
Wait, you gotta tap it. Tap the top first. Wait, and hold this up here, Patricia. Right here. You
Show
gotta
me how to
Oh my gosh.
It's to sync the
close.
cameras.
So you want the...
Welcome back to the Beyond the Weekend Late Night Edition.
Oh, little cold one.
Not even a Thursday night edition. It's a Tuesday night edition. This is...
Let me back.
A little
cold
cold one.
is the Dr. Pepper.
What is...
A little cold one.
What
A
is
cold
a cold...
Dr.
I don't
Pepper.
even-
A
what are
cold
you
one
talking
might have been a beer.
Okay. I'm too innocent for these jokes, Patricia. With that, I'm just going to say, folks, we're going to have an unhinged podcast here because we got Mark Hartley, the OG, back on the podcast.
And it's late night edition.
A late night, Tuesday night.
We're going on the third Mountain Dew for today, so
Yes.
Wow.
So,
we're wired. Yeah.
I thought you were cutting back.
No, not for tonight. I knew tonight was happening, Paul.
okay, listen, before the chaos starts, I got to at least get their intros. We got producer Paul in the house. I'm Amy.
Hello.
We got Patricia,
wait, hang on.
who Corey affectionately hold on, sir.
Because I'm hearing some nicknames being thrown around.
This is listen.
Are you gonna do it?
Yes,
okay,
I'm going to
go.
do it.
No, I'm not gonna take it from
I'm
you.
going to say, do you know that this is going to be a battle of the hosts?
Who's hosting this?
Whoever can pound more caffeine and keep up, that's who.
You guys watch that Seahawks game?
Yeah.
What do you think about Russell?
That's
With
crazy.
the Broncos.
Okay, do you know that Corey calls you Patty T?
Yes.
Okay, because he wandered in here earlier. He wandered in here, first of all, wandered in and says, are you guys rolling right now? It's like, no, but thanks for checking before you came in the room. And then we told him you were on the podcast, you were coming in. He was like, Patty T?
He's like, having Patty T on the and I was like, oh, I think Patty's reserved for
Who's
Dawn.
it reserved? Okay.
No.
Who gets to call you Patty?
Hey, Patricia, can you move that microphone and then talk straight, like you're almost touching it?
Listen, between Mark and me, she's not going to get an word in edgewise.
Tilt it down.
Yeah.
Mark's got you. There
All
you
right.
go. Yeah. Just
All right.
pretty much touching the mic.
Amy will make fun of me because she says I kissed the thing, and that's not accurate.
Okay,
I'm just as
that's
close as
TMI.
possible.
I'm on
I didn't
week
need
4
to
of
hear
a
that.
cough, and so last week I had like a little pile of cough drops sitting right here.
Everybody could hear it. Yeah.
clinking it around in my teeth afterwards. Paul's
Everybody's like, what is she eating?
And who was on this mic last week? No.
I know. Oscar. Pastor
Okay,
Oscar.
we'll go with
Okay.
Oscar.
Okay, so let's just orient us here. We're on our fifth and final week. It's not even a weekend. I don't know. It's beyond the weekend. Our fifth and final campus highlight series. We got West Vancouver. That's Mark is the campus pastor out
Yep.
there. Patricia heads up New Heights Kids out there.
Yeah.
And we're gonna dive into the to the West stuff. So that's why you guys are here. But before we get there, it's a big weekend at New Heights. We got Christmas decor up. You know,
Good.
it's
Yes,
time.
yes.
Just
Christmas
like
music.
it's Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and we were like, we're not waiting. We're not waiting
No.
for the post Thanksgiving thing.
I want to know, Paul, did you hand select the Christmas songs on the playlist playing through the lobby and auditoriums, or is that just a playlist you sniped off Spotify?
It is hand selected, and I think Nissen did it. I think Nissen made that playlist. So if you're loving it,
Were you liking it, Mark? Or
I liked it. Paul, is it only Christian Christmas music, or is there general Christmas
I
music
think
on
there's a
there?
little classical stuff in there too.
Okay.
he likes like the Sinatra vibe.
Yeah, I like that.
He likes
vibe.
that kind
It's
of
good vibes.
crooner, yeah.
It's good. It's
Yeah.
good. I just didn't know if are we doing reindeer and all that kind of with the songs?
There
or is that
might be a reindeer song. I haven't really heard the whole playlist
I
yet.
don't know.
Is Christmas decor up at your homes? Anybody?
No.
No. You got
No.
family in town for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And is that why you held off, or you always?
No. I probably won't do it until, I don't know, like 2 days before Christmas.
Okay. All right. You're just a purist.
Yeah. Nicole said today, can we go get the tree Friday?
Ooh.
Oh yeah, Friday after Thanksgiving. That's a done deal at us.
And I was like, babe,
Okay.
if you want to
Yeah.
sit in a parking lot for 3 hours, do you think that's a good usage of our family time?
oh my God.
I'm willing to do that for you.
You seem willing.
I'm willing.
Scrooge Mark. Just listen. Come
Listen,
up, come
I'm
up
a
to the-
pre-cut guy.
A pre-cut. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then why are you sitting in a parking lot?
Because Nicole still wants the experience. So I'm saying we'll go there.
This is amazing.
But I'm saying we comb through the pre-cuts. I'm like, if it's a good looking tree, you don't even need to get down on the dirt.
So where's your go-to lot? Where do you go?
Wiseman's.
Okay, that's out Battleground.
No, that was Washougal.
No, Tree Wiseman's is Battleground. Washougal is Washougal River.
That's
Christmas
the
Tree
one.
Farm. Yeah,
That's
okay.
the one.
Listen,
That's the one.
shout out to the people out there. I'm making sure your business goes.
Hey, the Washougal one's popping.
It is very, very busy. Yeah.
It's efficient,
Patricia,
though.
where do you go?
Yeah, we go up in the mountains.
Okay.
Like-
to like
Oh, you
legit
do that- yeah,
mountains.
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah,
$5
yeah.
pass or whatever.
You remember when Paul did that?
We do it every year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Paul, is that because? Why do you do this, Paul?
My wife makes me.
Okay, that's what I thought. I'm like, yeah, I know enough about you that I'm like, it doesn't sound like a Paul move.
Did she grow
a-
up doing this?
No, I don't know if she went and got real trees. I don't know if
Okay.
she went to the mountains to get it. I don't remember. Maybe once or twice. But yeah, I'm a fake tree guy. Grew up a fake tree guy.
Oh, really?
And then the last
Yes.
maybe 3,
Yes,
4
I'm
years.
so about this, Paul.
Patricia's son Zach and his wife Alex
Yeah.
and Emily and I go to the mountains to get a tree.
When do you go? Day after Thanksgiving?
Well, the first year we went way too late.
Patricia's laughing. She knows backstories on
Yeah.
this.
Why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing because in our family, like, you would rather die than do a fake tree. And, like, everybody married people that did fake trees.
Okay.
So, like, my husband does fake
He's all
trees.
about
yeah.
fake trees, yeah.
But we converted them.
Listen, I'm losing the Christmas magic, guys. Whatever that is in me, my mom, if she, I don't know, Mom, do you listen to the podcast? Are you there? I don't think so. But if she does, I will hear about this because I would have cried. I mean, Christmas would have been ruined for me with a fake tree and would have made her life a lot easier. A couple years ago, we lived in a temporary housing situation where we were building and we had a wood stove. And so it was a small room and we couldn't have a tree in there.
Oh,
so
I
we did.
remember
Yeah,
this,
so I got a
Amy.
fake tree.
This was like COVID.
Yeah, during COVID, yes.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
a wild time.
Amy's doing like a Zoom call and Dustin's like getting dressed in the background, and I'm like,
Moving the camera.
why is
like,
this
oh, boy.
happening? And then I'm like, oh, this is your whole space
We
where
were
you
living
live.
in like a studio thing off my aunt and uncle's garage. They were very, very generous, and we were there while we built. But it was an odd time to be on Zoom all the time. My bed was right like 1 foot behind my desk. And anyway, we got a fake tree. So then we're in our house now. I'm gonna put it to use. So I use it upstairs, which is fun to have like 2 trees and whatever. It's you can't get enough Christmas.
Oh, your tree's
But
amazing.
now that you're so used to a fake one, I'm like,
And the
I
convenience
just
of
want
it.
2 fake trees.
know.
This is the
know.
first year I'm admitting that,
know.
but I can't. We
And
have
the lights
same-
are already on it.
and they're like double the amount of lights. Like there's a tree at the if you come to Central Vancouver, there's a tree in the lobby, and it looks so good. The pre-lit trees are crazy. How much is on them?
And they're LED. You can make them multicolor. You can do
Click
so
the
much
buttons
stuff with
and
them.
all
It's
these
like,
things. Yep.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to stick with the real tree for 1 more year, but we just go. We're up
2
in
or
Wood
1?
London. Oh, just 1. I mean, the artificial staying upstairs,
Okay.
and then I'll do the real downstairs.
She has a really cute tree. Have you seen her tree?
Amy having a
Yeah.
cute tree, that does not
Yeah.
shock me.
Yeah,
at
like when
all.
you pull up to her house, like there's a little window with a tree
Oh
upstairs.
yeah, upstairs. Yeah, where the artificial one is. Yeah, yeah.
I can see
it's
it.
fun.
I can see it, Amy.
Christmas is a good time, the Christmas cheers. That's not really why it's a big deal at New Heights this weekend, though. I mean, it is fun to have the
Hey, I
Christmas
got another
stuff on.
20 minutes on Christmas if you want to keep going.
Here's the deal about going to the mountains, guys.
Yeah.
Hold on, did we review the drinks? The crack was. This is the thing. It's like, Paul, do you have? Yes, he does. Diet Coke.
Do we need to review the drinks?
Let's review them.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to shout out for her Mountain Dew.
Okay, Mark's got he's pumping the green juice.
Yep.
Neon green. Listen, there's nothing like boldness of ordering a Mountain Dew at a place that serves it in a clear cup.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
when you're sitting somewhere just drinking this
Looks
glowing
like
green juice,
You
fuel.
feel ashamed?
as an adult, I think, yeah.
I don't think Mark feels that.
No. I'm like, can I get a straw with that, please?
Where's the bendy?
Can I get a bendy? That's see-through. I want them to see it coming up and going in.
Patricia's got the cold one, the cold Dr. Pepper, we have clarified.
Got the cold one.
The cold Dr. Pepper. Paul's got the Diet Coke,
I'm rocking it.
and I've got the Santa Claus Coke Zero.
Which, Amy, we'll talk to us about that.
I discovered Coke Zero in the spring. And
This spring? It's been around for a little bit.
I know. It takes me a bit. But once I find something new, and the reality is,
You were a Dr. Pepper girl.
oh yeah, but I go every like a decade or so, then I just switch hardcore. And the thing is, at this point in my life, if it is cold, carbonated, and caffeinated, I'll drink it.
Hey, I had a thought
Doesn't-
today.
What?
How early?
We are never going to get on topic
How early
yeah.
is it appropriate
to
to crack
them.
open a soda?
Well, if my brother-in-law is listening, I don't know why I'm so talking to these people that might be listening or not, but
It's just your family. That's the only people listen to this.
if my brother-in-law, Josiah, is listening, he will tell you that he has walked into my house before. Actually, at Christmas time, I was like really into this craft one year. And I was like, him and my husband were going hunting. They were headed out. Probably like 5 a.m. And I was sitting there with a stack of brownies and a Coke.
At 5 a.m.?
At 5 a.m.
Oh my
and
gosh.
glitter.
My.
And, you know,
Now, had you gone to bed or?
yeah.
That's the right question.
I think so. I don't know. I was on a mission to glitter these little things I was glittering in. Okay, it's a big weekend at New Heights. We're gonna get to it, and Mark's gonna take us there. Mark, why is it a big weekend at New Heights?
It's a big weekend at New Heights because we kicked off a Christmas series.
I'm like, he's gonna take the punchline. What is it? Where's he going? Yeah.
No, it's a big weekend at New Heights because we've got some news about an official candidate.
Yeah, we got a lead pastor candidate. Our
right.
elders have made a recommendation
That's right.
that Matt Edmonds, who's been serving as the interim lead pastor, is they've recommended him as the permanent lead pastor.
Which if
candidate.
someone's listening to this right now, Amy, and they're like,
Yeah.
they hear that. They're like, what? How can they?
Okay, if you are listening to this and you didn't make it to a weekend
Yeah.
service, because we are recording this on Tuesday night, but Paul, please don't hit publish until Sunday or we will be in...
Done.
Yep.
I probably won't have a job anymore.
Yep.
Communication fail. So if you are hearing this and you're like, what are you talking about? Go catch the weekend service. There's they cover it in there. Also, you could head to... Let's make up what the URL is because I think it's going to be newheights.org/lead-pastor. I would guess that's probably what the URL is. And we'll have a full page available there with information on Matt, the video that we shared this weekend, as well as a bio and just some information about him as a candidate. But it's super exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're listening right now and you are that person, I would tell you hit pause, go watch that video. It's
Yeah.
super helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Really did.
It's just I think the fun we as we've kind of walked through it as a staff has just been seeing the faithfulness of the Lord and recognizing. Bob talks about it in the video, kind of like in the moment of an unexpected lead pastor transition, there's just kind of a trajectory that follows that headline, and generally it's division and disunity. I mean that's not because it's like. That's just human nature. I mean, that's just where we are prone to without the Lord in any circumstance, but especially in these kind of moments. And so I think for us as a staff to have kind of watched God's goodness to us and experienced it and through the elders' leadership, and it's exciting.
And it's twofold for me, the faithfulness of God, because, all of us, Paul, how long have you been on staff?
Since 2018, so 5 years.
Yeah, and then before that, Paul, you were serving with the church for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've been here 10 years.
And Patricia, how long have you been on staff?
22.
22. Amy?
10. You and I were.
10.
You started. I think you came down right before.
Yeah.
I was here right before you came down from Bellingham.
But part of this moment this weekend for me is it's another lesson for me in God's faithfulness because the candidates, Matt Edmonds, and I was Matt's intern 10, 11, 12 years ago, and I loved him, and he was so kind to me, and I was like the young college kid that was going over to his house, and Melissa's feeding me, and I'm sitting next to the boys, and like I bring a little Lego set for him, and I got Asher on my lap, and we're reading Dr. Seuss before he goes to bed, and Elsie's like a little one, it's like. And as a college kid, I was just like, I just loved this family and adored this family, and I loved Matt and do love Matt. And so, when Matt did step away, there was just so much confusion for me.
Yeah, I never anticipated being on staff at New Heights. That was not. I was 9 years into professional life before I joined staff at New Heights, and it was a kind of out of left field invitation from my former boss, Mike Wazazak, who was the communication director at the time, and was just like, are you kidding me? A chance to work at New Heights? I would love that. I had no concept that would be in my future. And so as I, considered it, joined the team, one of the things I was most excited about was working with Matt. And it was only 6 months into my time here, I think, and which would have been around the same time for you, that he told the staff he was going to step away. And I was like, what the heck? Because it just didn't make any sense to us.
Matt's like, hey, we don't really know what's going on, but God's calling us out, so we're trying to be faithful to it. And I'm like, yeah, the dots aren't lining up for me. And that confusion never left me for the last 10 years.
I've always teased him, how's your sabbatical? I love to tease him about that.
Every time you see him, you're like, it still doesn't feel right that you're not here. That you never moved on. At least I never moved on, and I'm like, this doesn't. And talking to other staff members, everyone kind of had the same thought.
And when you rejoined our staff 18 months ago, it was like, Okay, this is
Oh, yeah,
There we go.
yeah.
It was a little shocking to me though, because I had went over to take something for Nolan and was before he came back on staff, and he was we were sitting there chatting, and I remember him saying, and I'm like, I'm still shocked that you left, you know. And he's like, oh yeah, like God called me to for profit, and I love for profit, and he kept for profit, and then when
this is like a nonprofit job you're talking. Yeah.
And then like I don't know, it was like less than a year after that conversation, and here he's back on staff, and I'm like, oh, okay, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That really makes a lot of sense.
Wild is Brett Bryant, who shares in the video and has shared with stuff. A lot of what was heard in the video was shared it kind of in a fuller context to our leadership. And he talks about Isaiah, I think it's Isaiah 53, that God's doing a new
43.
thing. 43.
Yep.
And so Nick Canazzi and I, as we're working on the video, and Paul editing stuff and looking for kind of B-roll footage of Matt and whatnot, we're going through old stuff, which Matt and Melissa filmed a video when they left New Heights. Because honestly, he was a college pastor, but it was a huge deal when he stepped off staff. It was confusing.
Matt was not just the college pastor.
No.
There was definitely an assumption, a belief. Matt's influence was, we all think someday Matt's going to be our lead pastor.
Yeah.
Like it. So
It's just you can't be around him and not see that kind of leadership in him. So when we're going through this footage, because when that happened, we needed to tell. I was not on staff, so at this time, well, no, I was. What am I saying? I was on staff, but I didn't help with the production of the video. I wasn't really. That wasn't my role at the time. But they shared this video with the whole congregation, and so Nick and I just very recently are going through old footage trying to figure out like.
And of course, Nick has this all archived.
Oh yeah, he's
Nick's
got everything.
He's got it back, man.
So we pull that up and we're sitting there listening to it, and Matt's talking about how emotional and just draining this has been for him and Melissa to consider, God, why are you calling us away? Is this real? And is this you, or what is this? Is this your voice?
Yeah.
And then he talks about that verse, and he quoted the same Isaiah 43. God is calling us to do a new thing, and we've got to trust him. Nick and I were just like, this is wild. This is one of those moments where it's like, wow, God, thank you for letting us see the fullness of what you're doing here. We don't always get that closure moment, but
yeah,
super
for me,
cool.
the line I kind of been using is the confusion became clarity.
Yeah.
And
You all right over there?
yeah,
That Dr. Pepper getting
well,
you.
Yeah. I have this like cough that has not gone away, and Corey Hancock's like, we got to get you some essential oils. And then I'm like, get away from me, you witch
don't-
doctor. Like,
He's asking for it. His email is mhartley@newheights.org.
Yeah, no, none of that stuff. I just was about to take that so much further, and I'm like, we're going to keep this on track. It's late night. It's a late night edition.
Caffeinated late night.
Come on. But for me, this has been really important because when we don't see the dominoes, you don't see the dots, you're like, well, do I still trust you, God? I kind of want the full blueprint. But if you give me the full blueprint, how will I ever depend on you? And like this 10 years that I've been in this, and the confusion with Matt and all that, and then this clarity of like, oh, God was doing so much work in Matt's life to prepare him for this moment. And it doesn't...
A moment he never saw coming, by the way. I mean, when he came
Right.
back 18 months ago, never would have expected this is where it would be.
No, not at all. And moments,
Yep.
that are ahead of Matt.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, for me, I'm like, oh, right. It's so important for me to know that. And I want Sutton to learn that and like watch other people and her parents go through that. And she's going to go through it where it's like, yeah, we're not going to have the dots connected, but we can trust God in the process. And there can be confusion, but there's clarity coming at some point.
Yeah. God's faithful.
So I don't know. It's been
Patricia,
really cool to see.
22 years on staff. So that means you and Matt, that means the whole time he was on staff, you've been on staff,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah.
So you got some Matt stories. Let's crack open the
Well,
archive. We've
honestly-
been saying some nice things. Let's talk about
honestly, like this Matt would come to staff, and it definitely
You're talking
Yeah.
about like 20-year-old Matt, 21, 22.
Yeah, like he definitely created problems. There was definitely some yelling by a certain somebody.
Him getting in trouble. At time or
Getting
two.
into trouble, yeah. Which cracks me up that he's doing staff now, because oftentimes I've thought like, oh well, we should start joking around
Yeah.
back here and not pay attention and see what happens.
To
see
the
what
old
he
black
does.
clown stuff, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up next to Matt. Actually, he lived around the corner from us. So I moved into that house in 3rd grade. I probably knew him before, like we moved here in 2nd grade, but I don't remember that so much. But we ended up down at the same college in San Diego. And my classic Matt story is I was a freshman, he's a senior. He was, I'll have to fact check this, but I think he was a student body president. I mean, Matt was like, he's Matt.
Yeah.
He's just, everybody
Student
loves him.
body
And he's,
president. Okay.
he's having a blast down at college. Definitely known and loved and respected by the student body down there. And I'm a freshman who's never lived on my own and is clueless about everything and has a Toyota Tercel. Paul and I were talking about the Tercels
Oh,
last
yeah.
Shout out Tercels.
Come on, man.
You weren't supposed to have a car as a freshman, so I had to park it off campus. And we were in San Diego, so Ocean Air, and I didn't drive
Ocean
it.
Air
Ocean
is-
Air is salty.
Oh.
I think this. I don't even know.
I
if
thought
this
you were
is-
naming like an airline there. I was
Sorry.
like, oh, Ocean Air. Yeah.
We were. Our school was like on the cliffs
Yes,
of the
I
ocean.
got
It was
it.
beautiful, and I didn't drive my car super often, but it all the time. Like I'd go out there and it wouldn't start because I think it was as simple as like the air was like
The
causing
salt.
corrosion
Yeah,
around the battery
yeah.
or something. Anyway, call up Matt. Matt would come on over and clean up the whatever, and I'd be on my way. But it was like having a big brother at college. It really was this huge comfort for me being away from home for the first time, knowing that Matt was there. And I don't know, there's something just really sweet when I remember that, those simple things of helping a car, but feeling that same sense of security with Matt back on the team when he came 18 months ago. And yeah, just so much confidence in what the elders have recommended as they've been through an interview process with him and, you know, considered all sorts of things. One of the things that's been super fun for me is I've interacted with the elders kind of on the messaging of this, of how they want to communicate, what their thoughts are, and was Brett Bryant talked about it a little bit in the video, but he talked about John 10, my sheep hear my voice.
A good shepherd.
And just one of their realizations, I think Bob Lawn said it to me, was it's, you know, they've talked about this new thing, a new model. And maybe depending on the era of New Heights you've been a part of, a teaching team is more of a new thing or less of a new thing. Because we've certainly had a teaching team.
Hey, did I miss my window to share a story
Oh,
about Matt?
go for it.
Okay, it's just real quick.
Go for it. Paul.
Because, you know, we got a lot of them here. Okay.
Help.
Why are you looking at me?
This is good. Let's go.
No. Here's
You're up next, Paul, with the Matt story.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I mean, I could share so many. I was Matt's intern for 3 years. But
Wait, are we going sweet or are we going spicy?
we're going to go, it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both.
I want some lively Matt stories.
No.
And then help me remember John 10. Bookmark, everybody.
Yeah, we'll get back
trying to
it.
get to
I'm
the
there.
Bible.
I'm with you.
All right.
I'm with you. But I remember I was with
Not Mark.
a guy named Danny Hamilton. Who
Oh,
you guys
yeah.
know Danny.
Another
And-
neighbor of mine.
Yeah, and Danny and I are in the college ministry, and I'm an intern. And for whatever reason, we had this obsession of like, we're going to camp on the church property. Like, we're like, that's what we're gonna do, and like we know
Along
that
with other people who occasionally camp on
That's
the
a
church
terrible
property.
idea.
we know that the fire pit is underneath the stairs that's there for summer festival. So like we'll pull that out, and then like we'll set up a tent, and like the tent will be on the lawn. And I mean, here's how silly and dumb we are. I mean, I'm an intern at the church, and I forget that the sprinklers come on at 11 p.m.
Oh, no.
So like we're in the tent and we're getting soaked. Okay, so but before all that, we were at like Winco because you're like, we gotta get some food. What's open?
And Winco's where you chose to
because
go.
we're
Taco Bell.
gonna get some hot dogs and we're gonna roast them over this fire pit.
It's a legitimate camping experience. Survivalist.
I can't wait to
actually.
hear when
Can of
Matt
beans.
comes in.
Yeah, I know. Here it is. So we're at Winco and we see out front they're selling watermelons. Okay, and we're like,
Yeah, we know exactly where you're going.
yeah. And
Not at all.
I'm like, Danny, what if we filled Edmund's office
my
with
gosh.
watermelons?
What?
Like, what if we bought this full pallet full of watermelons? Like, you and I could raise the funds and like we just filled it up.
Raise the
And-
funds.
We're some broke kids, okay? And we're sitting there debating it for a while, and eventually we're like, no, we can't. Not because we couldn't afford it. It was because Matt is so disciplined that no matter what firepower we bring to this, the
He
beginning
will
of the
go
prank
bigger.
war,
It is
he
true.
will win this thing at the end. So, like, wherever we set this thing, he's coming back at us with 1,000% above it. And Danny, you're not going to face it. I'm going to face it because I'm down the hall from him. So
You're an
let's
employee
not
of New
do
Heights
it.
Church at this time while you're camping? You're an
Yeah.
intern. Okay. All right.
I'm calling Carol Apol at 11 p.m. to be like, Carol, the sprinklers on. I don't know how to turn them off.
Carol's like, hey, Mark, go home.
He's like, oh yeah.
I know. Yeah, so
is good.
So that's the thing about Matt is the guy's so dialed in. I mean, as an intern, I would show up and I think I'd beat him into the office, and he's there like every morning.
Yeah.
You know, and I would think like I'm gonna outlast him here, and then he's like going home. I'm going home before him. All his stuff's like dialed. All his little things.
Yeah, he's got some seriously good habits.
Yeah.
Whether, some trivial and
Yeah.
but
Oh
spiritual
yeah.
habits.
Yeah. Oh
Very
yeah.
disciplined.
Yeah. That spills into that,
Yeah.
Amy, which is like Matt the other day, he's got some of these corny things that he does, but I love him. We were at a coffee shop and he's like, oh, look, a penny. And he like picked up a penny off the ground and was like,
You don't?
he's like, that means I got to be praying for you. And he's like, if I picked up a dime, I got to pray for 10. And if I picked up a nickel, I got to pray for 5 people. But if I pick up a quarter, that's 25. And so it's like,
This is a wild little system. But this is cool. That's very Matt.
Later in the week, he had like texted me a picture of the penny and was like, praying for you today.
Yeah.
I love
You know,
that.
it's little stuff like that. Matt's worked some things like that in his life that just allow for him to be the person he wants to be.
Listen, he is going to hate that we're doing all of this. And Matt, are you listening? We're just going to keep talking about shout outs.
Hey, Matt.
Also, while you're on the prank story, him and Matt Nissen, I'm not going to go into the fullness.
Oh,
of this.
yeah. I put that in the back pocket. You want to let that one out?
Well, we're just gonna drip this one. So you can ask Matt Nissen or
Yeah.
Matt Edmonds
Yeah.
when you see them in the lobby. You can just ask them. They have had a lot of fun doing just sending the Columbian news stories
Yep.
and about each other.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That have some level of truth and some imagination behind them. And it's been quite amusing what they were able to get published about the other person just by submitting these little photos.
Yeah.
And stories.
Those stories are best
These
in
are
person.
old. This is an old.
They're
these are-
best in person,
They are
though.
best in
So
person.
you got to track Nissen or Edmonds down
But
for
this
those
is the
stories.
21-year-old, well, maybe 30-year-old Matt Edmonds that Patricia was talking about. Okay, back to John 10.
Yes.
Okay, Brett Bryant is talking about my sheep hear my voice. And he's saying, and I do mean this with all the, Mark and I, here's the thing, Mark and I and Patricia, we can bounce in and out of
Yep,
serious to
yep.
irreverent real quick, but with all reverence for how Brett delivered this to me, it was an impactful moment. He was talking about just the way, as the elders considered the resources of the church and the deep, deep bench of teaching team that we have, and considered Matt's own design that he had at a August leader meeting, an all-church leader meeting. He had said, hey, as long as I'm in this role, this interim pastoral, here's how I'm planning to tackle this, because there's a lot to this role. And I just look at the resources God has given us. He's given us this teaching team. I'm not going to teach full-time. I'm going to teach maybe 30%. I don't even remember the percentage he gave, but it was a much smaller percentage than we
Not only
traditionally.
am I not going to teach full time, I don't think I should teach
Yeah.
full time.
Yeah.
That this should be distributed.
And that wasn't him making a statement for all churches, all places,
No,
or
no. Right.
anything like that, but just saying for his own health and what he can manage in this role,
Yeah.
and what God's gifted us.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, Brett was talking to us about John 10, how he just really felt the Lord pressing on them, on the elders.
Which, let me just slow it down for
Yeah.
real quick, because you're riffing on John 10, but I'm thinking about someone who's like, what's John 10? And we're doing the little shepherd thing.
Yeah.
But John 10 is when Jesus is talking about, I am the good shepherd. And I know every one of my sheep by name.
Yeah.
And I call them and they respond. They know
Yeah.
my voice.
Yeah.
There's other people calling them, but they know my voice. They stay close to
Yeah.
me. And so when Brett's like using that, he's like, that's the focus.
What he's saying there, what Brett was getting at was between Matt's vision for this and what we're seeing as elders, we are poised with this teaching team to help people not become attached to a singular teacher,
Yeah.
but become attached to the voice of the Lord.
Yeah.
And,
To know
and,
the shepherd.
and recognize, which we all know that,
Yeah.
I mean, we've had great communicators here for years.
Yep.
We all know their vessels. None of us are, we're not wanting to hear them as the voice. They're not wanting us to hear that, but it's so easy to do. And in this season where God's gifted us with such a huge teaching team, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mark, will you talk a little bit about the teaching team? You're
Yeah.
on it, and like how does it function?
Yeah. And part of the teaching team, and we know this, but maybe for some, the teaching team's been around for decades.
Yeah.
It's been around since I've been on the team, and I
15
wasn't
years or something?
originally on the teaching team. There was
Yeah.
a moment
Yeah.
when at that time Matt Hannon had brought me on the teaching team, and I was terrified outside my mind But it's been around for a while, and it's taken its different refinements. But right now, the teaching team is a number of people on staff, and it has some different structure to it. Some of the structure that might be interesting for people is every Wednesday the teaching team gets together, and we study the passage that's being taught in 4 weeks. So we're 4 weeks out. We're studying it together. We're kind of preparing notes for it.
And you guys know who's teaching it.
We know who's teaching it, and we're all kind of working with the same grid. But essentially it's a Bible study, and it's a moment to say, hey, this might be some things you need to think through, but it's also just a moment. I love it. If I'm not teaching, I love it just to be in the text and hear what other people are doing in the text. So there's a camaraderie component to it, and then there's a helping craft a message component to it too. That's 4 weeks out, and then a week and a half out. Typically on Tuesday mornings, you give what's called a pre-talk, which I did it this morning, and sometimes I'd rather have my teeth pulled. But it's an opportunity to give your message in front of a group of people and have them give you feedback and help you where it might not be clear, or say, hey, that's really clear, lean in there. And so we do that together.
Yeah, and you guys invite other staff to that.
Yeah. And being at Western Seminary, I'm finishing out my master's, which is in a cohort with other pastors. When they learn about that, they're like, you guys do that? Like, wow. Like, I would kind of wish someone would do that with me.
Yeah, it's a vulnerable moment for you guys.
It's vulnerable, but it's very much team.
But, totally. I mean, I know as a staff person who's been invited, it's like, I'm rooting for you. Yeah. I don't care what you're saying. I'm impressed.
Yep.
I'm grateful you're teaching the Bible, period.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm grateful you're willing to stand up and deliver it at the moment, but especially in this moment of help give me feedback. It's a real humble approach to teaching the Bible.
Yeah, it's high trust environment. Today I did a pre-talk, and JP texted me afterwards and said, here's some things I really liked, and here's some things I think you could do to make it better. And maybe in another environment, I'd be like, man, this really hurts my feelings. Right. But I trust JP, and I'm like, oh, he's really trying to help me.
And you get to do it for him.
Yeah, I get to do it for him.
And recognize that you're seeing him in a way that he's not seeing himself.
Yeah. And the goal is the same for each of us, which is we want people to know the shepherd's voice.
Yeah.
So, where sometimes that shows up in really good but hard moments. I was sharing with JP something my wife and I had recently gone through, and I'd been like, oh, I think I want to share this. And JP kindly was like, Mark, I don't know if you want to share that. Not because that's a bad thing to share, but I think that might put the focus more where you don't want the focus. And I think we want to keep the focus on God's word and the person behind the word. And I was like, oh, JP, you're so right. That's so helpful. So there's moments like that happening where we're trying to keep that thing that Brett's talking about in focus. The other structure piece was 3 times a year we go on a little retreat, an overnight retreat, where we're trying to map out teaching for the next 4 months. Some people do that annually. We don't want to map it out for the whole year and not have that room to pivot and kind of, maybe the Lord's doing something here. So we feel like 4 months gives our teaching team enough time to help each other, to give the production team enough time to start putting different components together, the worship team, all that, communications team. And so those are really special retreats. I would tell you it feels like the first hour and a half, we're just praying for a while. I might fall asleep for a little bit and then come back into it. JP wakes me up. No, but they're really sweet. They're really, really special.
Yeah.
And so, the teaching team is, it's been I'll just personally speak, it's been a really good thing for me as a communicator of God's word and all that, but really just as like a person. And the character of the guys on that team for me call me further into humility and surrender and servanthood. And so I love being on that team.
And
go ahead. Patricia.
How many guys are on that team?
I think there's 9. But even as I say 9, I'm like, there's 9, but there's also even a wider range on that. Because you have guys like, Bill Heck, who always has a seat on that team.
Tried to retire 5 years before you or something.
Yeah. And you have guys like Matt Hannon, where it's like, Matt teaches here, but not at the same amount as different people. So it's like, it's a sliding scale.
Yeah. It is. It's just a huge gift to our church. And I do think there is something when the elders are talking about, God, are you doing something new here? And referencing that, just a slight shift. And like Bob said, at some level, it's a recognition of what already is. We already have this developed, highly talented teaching team. But there is a new moment where we're saying we're going to use it in a different way, both from, what Matt is feeling led and how the elders are feeling led. And it's cool. It's exciting and it has been a big weekend. It's been a big season, but we're grateful for God's hand in this moment. And but also, that's actually also not why we're here, right? It's like, what did we talk about at the beginning? We talked about soda. We talked about Christmas. We talked. I mean, I could come up with a lot of.
We can keep going.
Mark
here.
and I could go all night, but we are here to talk
Amy?
about
Where are we going? Barbie.
West. Oh my gosh! Hi, Barbie. Patricia, have you
Is
seen
she
it?
listening? No, I have not.
Oh yeah, it's Barbie. Are you listening? No, we're here to talk about West Side, West Vancouver.
Yes.
Which, before we dive in.
First of all, let's just thank the 20 people that are still left with us. Thank you, Amy's family. Thank you.
Matt Edmonds, because he's real worried about what we're saying. And we're gonna.
Here's how we get people to listen to the podcast. We just name them so that someone's like, hey, did you hear what they said about you?
When the elders find out that they're being name dropped, that's when we're going to hear about
and
it.
they're like, do you have the minute stamp on when they mentioned me? Now you're going to have to scrub through the whole thing.
Okay, West Vancouver.
West Vancouver.
The thing about West Vancouver, it's a big deal. West Vancouver. But West Vancouver is seriously just at the tip top, just the formation of it is a fascinating story.
It's wild.
We have a value here at New Heights. We've said for years that we're not just about this church, this New Heights. We're about the church, God's global church.
Right.
And I feel like New Heights West captures that in just such a cool way.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to rattle off some quick history here. Downtown Vancouver, 1885, First Presbyterian church launches. And it's this little brick building way long ago. It burned down at one point. I've read these really cool articles about the church. And they rebuilt it. And Wally Wiley, actually, if you know Wally Wiley, he is a MAF pilot. Not a pilot, I'm sorry, but he
Yeah, it was a mechanic.
MAF missionary.
Yeah.
And helped lead, I think, and on the admin side, actually, all of MAF in Indonesia. So if you're connected to MAF here, you're aware that we go over there every year, Wally Wiley is the original connection, the guy that we've been in contact with for years. Love the Wiley family. Wally was baptized at that church, at First Presbyterian Church. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So he has history at that church.
And I've seen you've shown me black and white photos.
Yeah.
That's that, right? That's
it's a really, the history of that church is pretty cool. So that church, eventually they sell out to some other kind of business takes over. I don't know if it was another church. It eventually becomes a theater. And then 2007, New Heights purchases it for our first West Vancouver campus.
Yep.
And so we launched there and have a congregation there.
Yep.
Eventually, the building fails, right? We just have a moment where
Bricks falling on the playground.
Turns out bricks from 1885.
I was like, how are you going to say this?
Well, we're just going to say that. It was we had to
Well,
let the
no,
building
actually,
go.
Amy, you talked about, the building burnt down at one point.
Yeah.
They found that they had reused burnt wood to help frame the inside of the brick foundation. And so even after the building was we were oh, this building is falling apart.
Yeah.
And we, hired a structural engineer that came in and were like, hey, this building's falling apart. When they took the building down, they discovered even worse evidence of the condition of the building.
So that's 2019 or something. I think it was before COVID that we.
It was right before COVID.
Okay, so 2019, 2020.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Right before
So we sell that building and trust. God, we trust you that you have something else for us. That congregation's not going anywhere, but they're on pause. I think they felt a little bit people scattered as they were at different campuses.
Well, it was can we maintain a community on Saturday nights?
Yeah.
And then we kind of had our eyes set on a elementary school.
Yeah. Trying to figure out, is there a movie theater in elementary school? What do we do here?
There's even conversation with Chinook.
Yeah.
On the west side of town.
And then out of nowhere comes Faith Baptist Church, which
Well,
is
even before that is the reason things hit real big pause was because COVID.
Yes, yeah.
Elementary schools just we can't even have kids in our own school.
Yeah.
Right.
And that paused things way down. And I remember there was a moment where it's what are we gonna do? People,
is this gonna come back? Because it's been a couple
There
years.
was a lot of that. Yeah, there was that moment.
Yeah.
Then
Faith Baptist gets in touch with us and says, hey, they were in a moment of the elders saying, their elder board saying, we're in a moment where we think an adoption situation might be the right move.
Their
for our
congregation was going
church.
through a transition, and
Yeah.
they were trying to figure out what's next.
And their church should have been super faithful to that community. I went to Awanas there as a kid with my friend.
Same.
And, oh, you did?
Yeah,
That's so
I did.
fun,
And
Patricia.
we hear this
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
We hear this a lot. Yeah.
They've had a huge impact on the
Yeah.
community.
Oh, I have people
And-
come all the time and say, "Oh, yeah, our kids
grew
went to
up here."
Awanas here."
Which is so crazy to me. It's like we got this First Presbyterian congregation, like the Origins. We got this original kind of West Vancouver campus. We got the Faith Baptist people who just, I mean, talk about the Becks and Talbots, different families that just jumped in fully to New Heights. And then 2022, you guys launch
Yep.
the current iteration of New Heights, West
Yeah.
Vancouver.
Yep.
So talk to us about that. What's going on at West Vancouver?
Yeah. So we launched last September, and we're kind of just blown away. We're blown away with the launch because, I mean, some of that is New Heights has some of its origins on the west side of town.
Yeah.
And so
I grew up like
You grew up
Matt
with blocks.
Edmonds and I both grew up just
Yeah, you could walk
we could
there.
walk there easily. Yeah.
Yeah,
right
there's
around the
people that
corner.
live in that neighborhood that walk
Yep.
like every
Yep.
Sunday. So there was a large number of people that are longtime New Heights people that were like, I'm all in. And so I think that
And
just
it's just a booming area.
yeah. You're right in the middle of we're in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And
Philida, Salmon Creek, Hazeltop.
Sacagawea Elementary,
Yeah.
we park at Sacagawea Elementary and we walk over. So I think the Lord just poised us. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Poised us in a spot with the environment and with the people and the way He was shaping that for there to be some real traction with the community. I think it's been fun to see as somebody comes, they're new, and they're like, oh, okay, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
And then pretty quickly they're like, oh, that person has somebody else with them now. And they're new. And they're coming. And now they have 2 more people with them. And so you meet a young couple and they go, yeah, I like this. Next thing you see the parents of one of the persons from the couple with them. Next thing you see that we've seen that happen. And I think it goes back to New Heights' strategy to be local. I think people feel like, I live in these neighborhoods. I want to be known. And then it's the people. It's all those people you just named and how adaptable they've been because they want to see the mission of God continue. They've experienced it in their own life. And they want to see it experienced in other people's lives. That creates a stickiness that someone goes, I like this. I want to hang around. You know, it's like part of that is like we added 80 people to community groups this fall.
Yeah.
And, it felt like I was like, man, that's a lot of people. How are we going to do this? How are we going to pull this off? And the Lord opened space for that. And so we've seen that in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
Patricia, talk to us. I mean, obviously, it's a huge announcement weekend at New Heights with Matt
Yeah.
Edmonds as the lead pastor candidate. West has its own huge announcement. What's that? You're
What?
staring at me. West Vancouver. You got your own big announcement out there.
Oh,
There she is. She's back. She knows.
I was going to say
Pie
that I became
Sunday.
a grandma.
Yeah, you can tell us that too. No, but West Vancouver, you guys,
Yeah.
you just made a huge announcement out there. What's that
Yeah,
announcement?
we have been just totally growing as a children's ministry team and reached out to people. And we, like, in 1 month, we onboarded 20 volunteers. Like, and when I've talked to Mark about it, like, all 20 of those volunteers are high caliber volunteers. Like, there's not one person that I would say.
Well, I think about before the fall, you and I talking about like our kids.
Yeah.
We went from like kind of averaging 70-ish kids on a weekend, which was a lot.
Yeah.
We were trying to handle it. And all of a sudden it was like,
100.
we're in the hundreds quickly.
Right.
And there's more babies in the womb
Yeah.
and like
11
so-
babies in the nursery.
and you
Yeah.
had 2 services,
And we have 2 services.
which
yeah.
is that, and now you're
Yep.
going to 3.
And now we're going to
Now
3.
we're going to 3.
And
Yeah.
that's the big deal. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just massive.
Yeah.
that-
Yeah.
And so what's the date on that?
Yeah,
December-
January.
Or January,
Yeah.
You guys know? I don't know.
Patricia's
December
ready to
7th.
go. She's ready to roll.
I'm not quite there yet.
January 7th, the first Sunday in January.
Okay.
And I mean, there's a number of reasons why on that. I as we've kind of talked about it, there's kind of there's 2. There's the practical, which is like, okay, not too long ago on a Sunday, we have 137 parking spots, and we parked 159 cars. And you're like, well, how'd you do it? And I'm like, maybe illegally. I don't know. Like if
Definitely
someone came by,
illegally.
and we're like moving people into neighborhoods. And so
Yeah.
you have practically that. Like the
Yeah.
space has run out of room. Feels a little bit like a Costco parking lot on Sunday morning. But then you have the spiritual component, which is just like New Heights, the church, not just West Vancouver, but New Heights in general, has a legacy of being like, we make room for the people that God's bringing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
So, you know-
Patricia, that is your legacy.
Yeah.
Like that's a cool moment of not just, obviously this is the West Vancouver highlight, which the highlight is,
Yeah.
man, you guys are bursting at the seams. 3
Yeah.
services coming, 8 a.m., 9:30,
And 11.
and 11.
Yeah.
Coming in January.
But it was definitely my
you
story.
have been here 22 years.
29. I've been on staff 22 years. I've been here for 29 years.
Okay,
So-
let's hear it. Let's hear the story.
Yeah.
'Cause-
We got to share this on Father's Day this year with our Terry
It was
Wren.
special.
Did a shout out to this story, but 29 years ago, I had my first son, Zach, and I was not interested in going to church. I mean, I thought, maybe someday, but, I had kind of made a pretty active decision to not follow the Lord at 14, and I was really committed to that decision. So I have Zach, and my dad said, hey, on Father's Day, we went to a new church. So my parents went to another church that they were very invested in. They were deacons, all sorts of...
They're all in.
Yeah, they're all in. All of their
At a
relationships...
church that wasn't New Heights.
Faith
Yeah.
Baptist.
Yeah.
Florida Baptist.
Yeah, okay.
And so they're like, we're going to a new church. Like, why don't you bring our grandson to this new church on Father's Day? And
He's
it's
using
like,
a guilt trip there.
yes. And it's like, really?
Yeah.
We call that power bait.
Yes. It totally worked, you guys. I'm going to use it on my children all the time now. Like,
Mother's Day is
Totally
here
right.
again.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It's Grandma's birthday. Come on.
So we came, and I was like,
You and baby Zach.
yeah, Zach and their dad. And I was like, okay, this wasn't bad. We probably should come so that the church can give him some morals, because clearly we knew we weren't going to give him any morals.
And
I don't know how we knew that.
This is New Heights. That was the
That
new
was-
church your parents
yeah,
went to.
yeah.
And
exactly.
Paul could speak up here. Zach still hasn't learned those morals, has he?
Not one bit.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
but
little
that's
baby.
Paul's
This is
influence.
baby Zach that is now Big Zach, who's
Who Paul and
Christmas
Zach,
tree shopping with Paul. Yeah.
Yes.
When
exactly.
Paul's, needing a spot on the bench, Zach's the guy he's called.
There's only one guy
There's
that can
one
help
guy
me
that can
out.
hold with that weight. He doesn't call me.
Yeah.
Paul doesn't call me for that kind of stuff.
I get it.
Okay, so,
But we call Zach too.
so Father's Day, you're here as Zach.
Yeah, this Father's Day, Zach and his wife Alex, they had 2 twin boys, and they brought their 2 boys to West for Father's Day, and my dad was there, my mom was there, my sisters were there. It was pretty fun to just actually honestly to see the influence of my parents' faith, and then just their persistence to just really pursue God, but to be willing to leave their church, which I would do in a heartbeat. If I had children that were not following the Lord, and I felt like I could go to another church that my kids be willing to go to, I would too.
Yeah.
So I get that sacrifice, but I also get,
It's a
boy,
sacrifice.
if I had to leave New Heights,
Yeah.
that would be a huge sacrifice. So,
Yeah.
and it's,
So you came the one time, and then what got you to keep coming?
yeah, we're just like, okay, we
We want our little
come.
kid to
Yeah.
be at a church.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
So cool. And then but the crazy part about that is, so then that has become your legacy. Like you've
Yes.
been in children's ministry for 20-some years, and you have been on the front lines of New Heights opening doors because you've played a role. Talk about your role on staff
Yeah.
and what you've done with campuses.
So when I started out in the moms ministry, but as I moved to weekend ministries, that was when we were starting to launch campuses. And so just going to all the different campuses and helping them get their feet on the ground. West was one of my kind of probably most involved ministries.
The downtown
Yeah,
West.
the downtown West. And then I've been at East, and I've supported the Battleground campus. And then of course, when we decided that we were going to open up a new West campus, at the time it was Scott, it wasn't Mark. So, it was like, oh,
And you're
definitely-
like, oh no.
I know. I
You
was.
got the kid pastors.
Oh,
I'm like, serious?
Scott's little brother.
Scott, please. Please stay.
Yes. And at that point, I was here at Central Vancouver campus. So it was just great. It was a great fit. So,
But then to see the Lord's, Providence and, Patricia.
Yeah.
Then
Oh, my
Zach and
goodness.
Alex move 3 blocks away from
Exactly.
the church.
Exactly. Yeah. My parents live right next to the church.
Right down it. It's wild.
Yeah.
Super cool. Gabrielle's on the team with you.
Gabrielle is here at Central Vancouver,
Yep.
so she's the only one of my my 3 that are not
Mm-hmm.
at
She's not
West.
out West
so,
Vancouver,
yeah,
but on the
exactly.
children's, on New Heights Kids team
Yeah.
with you. Yeah. Super cool.
I know.
It's pretty amazing. And so you guys, I mean, this is a big deal because it's been a bit. Obviously, during COVID, we've launched new services, right? Because we for a minute there we were down to one service. Remember the dark days? One service, one person on stage,
I was
Limited
thinking about
kids.
those days.
60. I don't know. That was
You remember when I was like kind of a member on the communication team?
Yes, I
And
do.
you're probably like, what do I do with him? Do I give him a
I kind of
job?
would want to be in the room. A little fly on the wall on
We
that.
did this. We did a lot of battling on the microphones, on the Zooms.
I was in the kitchen a lot in those months, working from home, just snacking in the kitchen. A lot of snacking in the kitchen.
Oh
Who
man.
wasn't?
But so after COVID, we've obviously added several services because we're coming back. People are coming back to church, which is really cool. But this is kind of one of those first, like, we're back at like pre-COVID numbers, which praise God. I mean, only by God's faithfulness and
Wild.
kindness did we survive COVID.
Yeah.
But this new service at West is the first like a huge growth moment
big
of
jump.
saying, "Whoa, God, you're taking us even beyond, restoration, and you're building here."
Yeah, like some of that stuff in the little bit of reading I was doing, trying to prepare for West to launch originally in September, was you kind of read some stuff and you kind of go, hey, you got 6 months, and then after 6 months, kind of the newness wears off of a community, and then you kind of get into the trenches and you kind of start doing it. And so when you looked at graphs on stuff, it kind of looked like exciting, and then like the newness is over. And that's not the graph for really any of our campuses.
Sure.
And at West, it's like it starts to click up after 6 months.
Yeah.
And so you're like, Lord, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Because this wasn't when I was like reading. And then we hit the summer, and the summer, I was like, okay, people are gonna go away on vacation, and we're like having our biggest weekends ever in July.
Yeah.
And we're like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
People are supposed to go away, and so it just got to this place of like, okay, Lord, all right, we recognize you're doing something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's normal for Patricia and I to meet people that it's like nobody brought you.
Yeah.
I met a couple this last weekend. They just graduated from WSU in Pullman. They met in Greek Row. They're like 22 years old, moved to the area. And I'm like, what are you guys doing here? Like, how did you get through the doors? Like, if you Googled the church, like, would it send it a CV? Like, how'd you get here? And they're like, we have a friend in Portland who told us we should check this place out. And I'm like, I don't know. They said the name of the friend. I'm like, I don't know who they are, And I'm like, that's the Lord. And, we see that with families getting checked in with kids where it's like, where are they coming from?
Yeah. Well, even the Christophs who said that they just drove by.
Yeah,
Oh, we just drove by and thought we'd check it out.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. We love the Christophs because, Christoph what's their last name?
Christoph.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Paul,
the
what is
Christophs.
happening
I'm
right
sorry.
now?
Oh, no. He's not listening anymore. He just turned it off. It's actually Smith.
Yes, that's it.
I'm
That's
like
it.
waiting for us
Smith.
to get to Christoph.
Yes.
Is this like a name for Santa too? or
No.
something?
But
Yes,
we
yes, it is. The
but they
Norwegian Santa. or
they
something.
no. You're
Oh,
thinking of Frozen. You're thinking about Frozen.
I need another one. I'm empty over here. I need another soda. Okay, Patricia, slide me the Dr. Pepper.
They take
Christoph and
West.
Frozen.
They take West and they make it global because they're our South African family.
Oh,
cool.
my.
Yeah, so they got cool accents and they're super cool.
But it's not uncommon. Like, I love it. I love, I mentioned this one time to our staff that one of the wins for me is to walk by the middle school room or the garage and see bikes, like little BMX bikes
Yes,
out there,
Patricia.
parked out there. And I'm like,
'Cause they're
middle
riding
school
over.
kids are riding their
With
bikes
pegs,
to church.
the pegs are on there.
I would have never have ridden my bike to church, let
I
alone.
love that. At Battleground, more than once, I've stopped and taken a picture of a scooter in the hallway because
Love
I'm
it.
like, this is it. This is the win. We've got kids. We live close enough. They know who we are. They trust us, and
Yeah.
they're getting themselves here.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
So cool.
Yeah.
And the other thing about New Heights, and I have grown to just love this. I had a gal that was talking to me in the lobby, and she said, I love the multiple generations
Oh, yeah.
present at this church. And she said, I thought because you're younger, she's talking to me, that this would have been like a young person thing. And I was like, oh, no, we got more old people than young people here. You know,
I don't know. The babies are catching up.
Do you mean
yeah.
Yeah, what
They're
do
gonna-
you
they're
mean by
gonna
old,
love
by
it.
the way?
The beautiful people.
Okay,
You know?
all right.
Good say.
But it was like, yeah, like when you look, you know, you probably feel this, Amy, when you're looking at photos of different parts of our congregation. It's like, look at you got grandpa and grandson, and there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah.
And that, for someone who's new right now in our culture, who's longing for community, who's longing for purpose, who's longing to belong, they've been sold 1,000 ads. They're sold ads constantly.
Yeah.
To walk in and go, wow. They feel it, like, instantly.
Yeah.
And I feel that at West. I feel that, honestly, and I got to travel to campuses in the teaching rotation this summer, and it's like, oh, that is such a good feeling.
Yeah. And I really feel like even, you know, I see it at West most frequently, but like an older generation caring for the younger generation. I think of like Ovita Beck.
Yes,
Like
yes.
she grabs like Eli
Augie,
Ganyu
yeah.
and Augie and,
Yeah.
you know, like she gives them roles and yeah.
I mean, it's cool because we're talking about the highlights of launch in a third service, which is just awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, praise God that he's brought people, but also praise God that he's brought the resources
Yeah.
and given you guys and your leadership team hearts to say, that's not just like, yes, God opened the door for me, you know, for you, Patricia, 20-some years ago. And man, I've put in my time. I've opened all these campuses. And whew, I don't want to do this again because it's no small feat to like launch another service. That is a whole other coffee team, parking teams, you know, worship, all of
the
that
deal.
stuff. Kids, I mean, that's a ton of volunteers. But for God to place in all of you just the sense of the conviction of, no, this is what we're here for, is to make more and better disciples.
Yeah.
And I think hearing the story, I know, Mark, I think you shared, you guys made the announcement and you had your coffee team filled like right away.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it. Yeah.
And I mean, Patricia's already
With 5
bragging about it,
minutes.
but that's Ovita.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
Okay, that's what we
And
did.
it's
Yeah.
like, you know, you think when you launch a new service, you know, a lot of our teams are on A, B, C, D rotations, and so you go, okay, well that's 2 coffee volunteers, you know, you're like, okay, we've got to fill 8 new coffee volunteers to support an 8 o'clock service, which you anticipate that, like, okay, well maybe we can't fill 8, so we'll start with 4, and then we'll find buddies for them, and maybe we'll start with 2 and ask them to serve twice a month. Or maybe we start with 1 and ask them to serve every. You know, like, you're just trying to figure out what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then for Ovita to be, after we talk about it with our leaders, she's like, you're not going to believe this, but we already filled all 8 spots. You know? And so, yeah, that just speaks to the resources and the characters.
Yeah, and even for the Kidsmen team, I feel like most of the teachers that are on the team, apart from this 20 new additional volunteers, have been there from the very beginning, and they're the same volunteers that are coming up and saying, "Do you need me to do 2 services right now?
Yes.
Like, I'm wherever. If you put me where you need me."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh yeah, of course you said that. Like,
Yeah.
you've been here from the beginning. They're
So
bought
cool.
in. They're
All about the next generation. Somebody made room for them.
yeah.
Let's make room for the next.
And you know what? It made me, but again, like, this is nothing new for New Heights. I think about this last summer. We have 1,200 kids signed up for camp.
Absolutely.
And it's and like, we don't have enough cabin
And
leaders.
30 leaders or something.
Yeah.
Not really, but it felt like that for a
And
minute.
once we're like, let's just tell the church the need.
Yeah.
Let's just let them know. Here's the need. We've got kids. We can't bring them to camp. We don't have enough leaders. Then you had grandparents being like, all right, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll pack the CPAP machine. We're gonna figure
Literally, that was a question that
we're
I
gonna-
can't.
we're gonna
somebody
figure
said,
it out.
You just
Do
crossed
you
the
have
line.
an outlet for my CPAP machine?
Yes,
Yeah.
totally. You're like, I'm willing to like forfeit
So
my
cool.
25-minute shower. You know, like, but you just
Or shower, period.
Yeah,
for the week.
I heard about a leader sleeping in her car because, like, the cabin, she couldn't fall asleep on the bunk,
Okay.
and so, like, you know, she would find little pockets of time to collect some sleep.
Oh, my goodness.
You know?
Wow, yeah.
And I'm just like, that's it.
Yeah.
And if we sat down and interviewed the leaders, they're like, well, of course
Yeah.
we do that. There's not like a question of like, I don't know, it's gonna be hard. It's like, no, of course we do this. If God has brought us kids, then we're gonna figure out a way to make room for them. And it's the same with, if God's bringing us people, and they can't find a parking spot anymore,
Yeah.
And maybe that forces them to circle the lot a couple times, and maybe they decide to leave. Like, no, we're gonna figure out a way to make space for people. And just to give some credit to the West Vancouver leaders, like part of the way we've been making space is they've been walking 800 yards because they park at the elementary and walk over to leave space for people to park. And I'm like, that's a sacrifice, especially when the kids got up later than you thought and dumping rain, and they threw their shoes, and you're running late, and you're like,
Or that parking lot gets full.
yeah, or Second Way gets full, and you're like, can I park in this person's driveway? You know. So but it points back to a long legacy. I mean, we could do the New Heights story and go backwards and go look at this over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, it's super cool. It's awesome that you guys are part of that legacy continuing. And Patricia, I just love especially the role you get to play in it, having been part of all these expansions and just saying, rolling up your sleeves, I'm here for one more. Let's keep going. It's really cool.
Is it only one more?
Well, it's one more right now, West Vancouver.
Right.
We'll see when you get to another one.
One step at a time.
Yeah, we'll see how many 8 a.m.s we can add across the campuses. It'll be pretty cool the next time that we get to add an 8 a.m. It's a big deal. So big celebrations here at New Heights. I think Thanksgiving week, it's pretty cool to just stop and say, Lord, thank you for the people you've brought to West. Thank you for resourcing West. Thank you for the wisdom you've given the elders. Thank you for bringing Matt back. I mean, there's just the gratitude continues on. Thank you to the listeners who have hung out with us during this podcast, but also just the campus highlights. It's been super fun to hear the stories shared of just God at work in and through the people of New Heights. There's no shortage of those. And it's been fun to spend 5 weeks kind of recapping some that are pertinent to the moment. And next week, Paul, Natalie, tell us what you're calling this little thing.
I don't know. We don't have like a pithy name for it.
Yes, you do. I saw it. Is that not you?
There's a joke name for it.
That's what I want to hear.
What is it? Who came up with it?
So we have this thing called Planning Center where we look at services. I pull it up and I see that it says Nat Vent.
That's what it is.
Natalie Myers, our director of communications. She's going to do a 5.
No. Not director of communications.
I don't know what she does.
That's you, Amy.
I'm ready to give it to her. We've got a lot to communicate these days.
We need to get Amy another Coke Zero over there.
Our director of groups, Natalie Myers, is going to do a 5-week Advent series. And
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Well, maybe a bonus 5 if I keep saying that. She'll just have to. No, we're going to do a 4-week Advent series, and just a cool pivot for us on Beyond the Weekend and a moment to just reflect on the Lord and the anticipation of the birth of Jesus and experience that kind of in a fresh way. So we're looking forward to that. Paul?
Yeah.
You got any parting words for us?
I do actually. You were mentioning...
Shock on Mark's face.
You were mentioning...
I was like, land it. And I'm like, Paul's about to land it. No, we're taking back off.
Let's go.
You were mentioning people that need to listen to the podcast because their name is mentioned.
Yeah.
Matt Homan may or may not have programmed a bot to scrub the podcast for his name. So now he's going to listen because I said it.
He's going to listen.
I said
He's going to have to go all the way.
And he's going to have to listen through the whole thing because I said it right there at the end. That's it. We're done.
See you, Matt.